Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, we're talking about retro achievements, and if you use stuff like Aether SX2 or Nether SX2 for PS2 emulation on Android, you're not going to like this news. And it's not necessarily the fault of retro achievements nor the fault of Nether SX2. The title of the announcement reads Hardcore Mode Restriction for Outdated and Unknown Emulators, but there is a silver lining in here and we'll get to that in just a second. There's a lot of people out there who enjoy retro achievements. They see them as a fun yet serious thing, and arguably even more serious for hardcore unlocks. There's a number of people out there who like to brag or celebrate the fact that they were able to unlock some hardcore achievements through retro achievements in game. And they say here to ensure all hardcore unlocks are earned within the confines of the rules set up for the mode, emulators are regularly updated to fix loopholes that could be unfairly abused. It's worth mentioning here they didn't say anything about softcore unlocks, just hardcore unlocks. And I mean, I think it makes sense here. If a hardcore unlock can be exploited, what is the value of it? It'd be almost like paying someone to play your account and take credit for it, saying you're the best. Meanwhile, you didn't really do anything to achieve that. So they say here, going forward, any new hardcore unlocks coming from an emulator that is more than 2 years old, while a newer version exists, will be converted to softcore unlocks. Similarly, any emulator that has not been officially approved by us or is no longer being supported will only be allowed to unlock achievements in softcore mode. This change is not being put into effect immediately. There's a 3-month grace period and it will be into effect in April. The Retro Achievements team reiterates they're not disabling any emulators, just disabling hardcore unlocks for old and unsupported emulators. And on top of that here's the silver lining. It appears that Melon DS Android is now officially supported. As for the other emulators that are potentially impacted here, we've got BizHawk, which I think has already been updated to resolve the issue. Then there's Flycast Pizza Boy emulators, Aether SX2 and Nether SX2. The only ones I'm not hopeful for here are Aether SX2 and Nether SX2. So Aether SX2 they say is abandoned and unlikely to ever be supported. And Talrith made that pretty clear when they stepped away from the project. Nether SX2 is a patch for Aether SX2. It plays off of Aether SX2. And they say here their developer says forcing Nether SX2 to softcore makes sense, and that the upcoming Ethereal SX2 will strive to be officially supported. So we'll have to wait and see here for Pizza Boy and Flycast, but I think those emulators will eventually be updated to make the changes and avoid any sort of hardcore or softcore mode issues. As for Aether SX2 and Nether SX2, yeah, I don't think they're going to be updated to support hardcore mode. And Ethereal SX2 is currently in development. It's an up-and-coming PS2 emulator for Android. On a side note here, if you are using something like RetroArch, you don't really have anything to worry about. Keep your cores updated and you should be good to go. Next up, we're talking about Nintendo 3DS emulation with Borked 3DS. I think that's a very appropriate name. So Borked 3DS is, it's kind of a mashup. It's a fork of forks per se. So first and foremost, it's based off Citra, but it's not based off the official version of Citra. It's based off the Citra from Pablo MK7, as well as stuff from Lime 3DS and Mandarin. So at the time of filming, Borked 3DS version 2025-01-23 is the newest and latest release. And they say here this release features many experimental work-in-progress Android improvements. And there's also a beta release, which I think incorporates even more work-in-progress improvements. Anyways, here as for what's changed, there is a whole bunch. There's a bunch of fixes, attempted improvements, and even more. And they say Android multiplayer netplay improvements as well. It appears that Borked 3DS is available for Windows, Mac, Linux, and Android. And they say here it's an experimental 3DS emulator project and not the official project that aims to unify and continue Lime 3DS and Pablo MK7 development, which is Athahar. And continuing to speak about emulation, next up is a fun heads up here. We're talking about Atari Jaguar emulation and more with BigPEmu and Rich Whitehouse. So Rich Whitehouse is the person behind BigPEmu, and he says here this means the next version of BigPEmu, including non-Steam builds, will be out any day now. But the big part of this announcement is, if all goes as planned, I'll also be announcing some brand new emulation projects in the next 2 to 4 months, with some special treats for the patrons. Rich Whitehouse took the Atari Jaguar emulation world by storm with BigPEmu, has made a bunch of improvements to it, and it's very impressive, I would say, in its current state. and I am very curious to see what his next emulation projects are going to be. I've got no idea what they even might be. If you know, if you want to speculate, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But I would say this is a very big win for the emulation scene, having Rich work on other emulators as well. And speaking about advancements, next up we're talking about something that is not advancing. Now, we talked about this in a previous video. In fact, in a very recent video, we talked about Rockstar and Take-Two taking down the San Andreas implementation in Grand Theft Auto 5. It was a huge mod. Anyways, it appears that Rockstar has just took down the YouTube channel of the people who were making GTA Vice City Next Gen Edition mod. Now, the mod is set for release on January 25th, and I don't know if this means the mod is being shut down and will never be released. Considering it's so close to the end, so close to almost completion, I wouldn't be surprised if it does get released in some way, shape, or form, or leaked in some way, shape, or form. I don't know at this point in time if the mod has been taken down or just the YouTube video. Anyways, it is a fan-made project that ports the entirety of Vice City into GTA 4's game engine. And that is pretty big, and I think a lot of people would be excited about this one. We're just going to have to wait until tomorrow to see if this mod actually releases, or if Rockstar went to the entire team and just told them to shut down the project. Which, well, it just seems it's a very Rockstar thing to do. Rockstar and Nintendo seem to be very similar when it comes to mods. And speaking about stuff releasing, this one kind of released under the radar. If you're a fan of Heroes Adventure Road to Passion, you're going to be a fan of this news, provided you've got a mobile device. So Heroes Adventure was released back in 2023. It's an open world RPG per se. And it's got a very positive review score over on Steam with almost 20,000 reviews. Now, this game has just released on mobile. In fairness, I have not played this one yet, and I don't know if it's the exact same game on mobile, but it is called Heroes Adventure. I think it's by the same studio here, and it's got a price tag with in-app purchases. So I don't know if this is going to be a you buy it once and then have to continue to pay to progress in the game or unlock stuff. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be a pay-to-win kind of situation. But taking a look here, a lot of people seem to be excited about this one when they find out about it. So it did just launch on January 19th, and well, it's only got a little over 1,000 downloads so far. And speaking about downloads and uploads and cloud stuff, next up we're talking about Retrom. Retrom is a centralized game library collection management service with a focus on emulation. Configure once and play anywhere. And Retrom just got a brand new update. So at the time of filming, Retrom version 0.7.0 is the latest update, and this is mainly a bug fix release, but there is a couple of things in here that I would say are quality of life fixes. And one of those is the ability to delete platform entries. You can now delete platform entries from the client. RetroArch is 100% free. It's open source. It's still fairly new to the scene. And if you are curious about it and wanted to learn more about it, like everything we talk about, link is in the description below at the bottom. I don't hide my sources. Next up here, we're talking about the Xbox Developer Direct, or specifically things that were unveiled during the Xbox Developer Direct. So yesterday there was the Xbox Developer Direct, and it did not disappoint. There were a ton of things showcased, and one of those being Ninja Gaiden 4. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a release date or anything of that nature just yet, but there's some very good news in terms of overall development. They say they're between 70 to 80% done, and they're right now at the polishing stage. That is amazing. That's crazy, the fact that they're this far along and have now just unveiled the project. Let me know your thoughts about Ninja Gaiden 4. And if you're not a fan of that announcement and you're a fan of something like Ninja Gaiden 2, you might be excited that they just released the Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, which is a remaster of Ninja Gaiden and the definitive version of the game. This one also came out of nowhere, and if you've never played the game before, well, now might be a great time to try it out. It is available via Xbox Game Pass already. The second thing they announced or unveiled or showcased during the Xbox Developers Direct is something a lot of people are excited about and talking about, and something we talked about yesterday. And that is Doom. They showed off some gameplay here. They confirmed the release date is May 15th. And this game, in my opinion, looks awesome. Now, I don't know about you, but I really think that this is going to be a very successful Doom and a very definitive game in this series. For the first time ever, they're having a whole bunch of different sliders that you can change. For example, changing the difficulty and game speed. If the game is too fast, if it's too hard to keep up, you can slow the game down, which I think will attract a whole lot of people. Now, I know some people are going to say, you know what, that's Doom. That's how you have to play it. Fast and crazy and manic and just all over the place. But at the same time here, sometimes people don't have the reflexes to keep up. Sometimes people will never have the reflexes to keep up. And sometimes people may have reflexes that have diminished over the years, in which case this may be a great version of the game to check out and have fun with. And if you've got around, I don't know, $200 floating around and you like physical stuff and wanted a Doom statue and, well, even more, they're having a Doom collector's bundle as well. And this does get you 2 days early access to the game, which I don't know if it's worth $200, but I mean, if you're really into Doom, this may be something for you. Not gonna lie, the Doomslayer statue looks pretty darn cool. I would say the biggest downside to Doom the Dark Ages right now is the fact that it requires an NVIDIA 2060 Super or better. It requires a GPU with ray tracing. And I think that may limit the number of people who are able to enjoy this game. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Unfortunately, I don't have full confirmation as to whether or not this will run on the Steam Deck, and I am hoping they find a way to eliminate the requirement for ray tracing and maybe make it work with even more devices. Who knows if they're going to do that, but at the same time here, one thing I do know is that the game will have de novo. Moving on, and this is just a friendly heads up if you are curious about the US top 10 best-selling games of 2024. I could do a whole video on this or just keep it to a small segment. Anyways, here, no surprise, in first place is Call of Duty Black Ops 6. And this marks the 16th consecutive year that the Call of Duty series has been #1. In second place here, I'm kind of surprised about this one as well, but I guess not. But at the same time here, it's EA Sports College Football 25. I mean, that series continues to remain popular. The fourth place I am surprised about, considering it didn't receive a nomination for Game of the Year, and that is Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, the fourth best-selling game of 2024. And oh yeah, Elden Ring is #9. And speaking about friendly heads-ups, next up we're talking about Final Fantasy VII. And it turns out the Final Fantasy VII Remake will not be a PS6 exclusive. We're already talking about games for the PS6, and well, we just got the PS5 Pro. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below, but I'm glad to see that we're not getting such a big game as an exclusive. Next up here, if you're a fan of the Art of Rally, which I find is a very cozy, relaxing rally game, it's an awesome game. Anyways, you're going to be a fan of this announcement here. It's called Over the Hill. It's being developed by the Art of Rally team. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, this looks like a relaxing version of SnowRunner. So I could be wrong with that, but that's kind of what it looks like, and it may not even be that relaxing, but it does look really cool. I love the art direction. Over the Hill is currently available to be wishlisted over on Steam. I don't have a firm release date just yet. And scrolling down here, it doesn't seem like the Nouveau or anything like that is going to be on it. And taking a look on Steam as well, if you are interested in the Art of Rally, or if you've never played it before, it's currently 40% off. And I really enjoy this game. It's not like some sort of fast-paced, high-intensity racing game. I mean, yes, there is high intensity in racing in it, but I mean, at the same time here, I just find this one very cozy and a lot of fun. It may not be your cup of tea. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but it's right up my alley. And again, I love the art direction in that game. Next up here, we're talking about the Nintendo Switch versus the Steam Deck. And, well, did you know the two consoles were going to be competing against each other? If you didn't, I'd be surprised. Anyways, here it seems that the Steam Deck is going to be very successful even with the Nintendo Switch 2. Some people were wondering, would the Steam Deck suffer in terms of overall game compatibility from developers because Switch 2 is the new hot thing? And the answer here, not surprising, is no, the Steam Deck is going to be absolutely fine. In previous videos, we've talked about the rise of PC gaming. In fact, in the last few years, the whole scene has just kind of exploded. I've even showcased data to support that. Anyways, there's more data here to further exemplify that information. So a bunch of developers were surveyed over at GDC, and it says here that 80% of developers surveyed have stated they were using a PC platform for their current project, which is up from 66% just a year ago. In my opinion here, and feel free to disagree with me, I don't really think the whole Steam Deck versus Switch 2 argument should even exist. I think they're in completely different ballparks, and I'm glad to see the Steam Deck is continuing to get support here. And also, based on the survey, going to continue to get a lot of great games on it. And speaking about the Switch 2, next up we're talking about the Switch 2 and something that has just been unveiled that has been raising a lot of eyebrows. So Lexar has just announced a 1TB MicroSD card for the Switch 2. 1TB is awesome, but there's something on here that has got a lot of people talking. and that is the EX, right under 1 terabyte. So here's one of my current favorite microSD cards, and that's the SanDisk Extreme. To me, it's one of the more reliable ones out there, and I've tested out a whole bunch of microSD cards over the years. Anyways, here, this one has a speed of up to 190 megabytes a second for sequential read performance. Now compare that to the EX version of the exact same card. This one has up to 880 megabytes a second of sequential read performance. That is a huge difference. So based on this information, it does seem that the Nintendo Switch 2 will support EX speeds. We could be wrong with this. Maybe they're just putting EX on there as a marketing thing so you can use the card with other devices that support EX. But I mean, at the same time here, that is extremely fast. And I am hoping that the Switch 2 will be able to take advantage of something like this. And on a side note here, continuing to talk about the Switch 2, it seems that there's a new leak here that I would take with a grain of salt because it's super vague and, well, it's kind of predictable. So a retailer leak reveals new 3D Super Mario and Zelda remake for Nintendo Switch 2. I mean, if I was a betting person, I would bet on both of these things without seeing this leak. It seems that this leak started from a listing here on a retailer's website for a Nintendo eShop gift card and showcasing compatibility with the Switch 2. We'll have to wait and see, but realistically here, we're going to see a new 3D Mario and Zelda on the Switch 2. I'd be surprised if we didn't. You know what the Switch 2 won't have though? Crysis VR. Last up here, we're talking about Crysis VR, and this is a complete mod that's being released here and, well, looks amazing. If you're a fan of Crysis, if you're a fan of VR, you may be a fan of this update. Full links are in the description of that video. The mod has been released. It is version 1.0, so it might not be perfect. But I mean, at the same time here, I think this one looks pretty cool. Even if you're not a fan of Crysis and you're a fan of first-person stuff or a fan of VR stuff, this may be up your alley. This looks awesome. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and the legendary one fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Feel free to discuss anything we talked about in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate, save your state.